Welcome back here to the Gill Athletics Connections podcast, the number one podcast in the world, according to my 11-year-old daughter. And, that's means everything to me and nothing else. So it doesn't matter what you think. So Cassidy, love you. Daddy loves you. Thank you so much for being such a big fan here. My name is Mike Cunningham. I am your host here at the podcast, as well as the National Business Development Manager here for Gill Athletics. You didn't come here to know who I am, though. I'm super excited. I'm going to hop right into it. Help me welcome the head coach of the University of Central Missouri. We're going to find out they're Jennies, they're mule. We're going to figure out this whole animal thing. You know how much I love mascots. Help me welcome the wise, the wonderful Mr. Kevin Paterson. Kevin, how are you, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing great. Super excited to be with you. Love the podcast and can't wait to tell my story and talk track and field for a few hours.
I love it, man. Your story matters. And, I tell that to people because, I believe it. Everybody's story is unique. Everybody's story has value to others and to themselves and to their own family and friends. So, I kind of pinch myself every once in a while that, this is my job. I get to uplift and honor coaches around the country. And I'm excited to do that with you today here, my friend.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I kind of brought it up during the intro. I do want to tackle that first and foremost. So what is I know I think I know what a mule is, but what's a Jenny? Maybe you had to learn this as well, because we're going to learn this is,
Well, absolutely.
Your rookie year here at Central Missouri. What's the difference between a mule and a Jenny, and what have you learned?
So a mule is, and I might get this wrong as well, but I think it's a combination between a horse and a donkey.
Okay.
So the mule is the male.
Yeah.
Mule, and then Jenny is the female mule. So
a mule and a donkey are different.
They're different. Yes.
That's why I hedged when I said maybe I'm going to learn, because I thought in my head a mule is a donkey, just another name, but it is a different, a combination of two.
I wish my wife was here. She did a deep dive. She's a science teacher, so she knows everything about them. So
okay.
One of the really cool things is obviously we're in Warrensburg, Missouri, right next to the Whiteman Air Force Base, which is where we house all our B-2 bombers here in the United States. But it was always a military town. So in World War I, and the barn still exists. They're actually turning it into a brewery. So I'm pretty excited about that. But where they housed all the mules for World War I was in downtown Warrensburg, probably about 3 blocks from campus. So a really, really cool story where, I think anyone, when I call them the first time and they do that research and they're like, you guys are the mules? Like, What is this? It's a super unique mascot, but a really, really cool story behind how we became the mules and Jennies. So on this barn, still to this day, there's a painting that says, behind these doors lives the world's meanest mules. So it's, so we had a lot to do with cool. Winning the World War I and still to this day, when hurricane hits in North Carolina, they used mule trains to help rescue people out of their homes and things like that. So it's a super unique mascot, but a really, really cool one that has a great backstory. So it's a lot cooler than just being the Wildcats or something like that. It's kind of generic and it looks cool. Yeah. But we have a great story behind that. And I think our programs and our university really, gets behind that mascots, being, workhorses and things like that. So.
Well, I love unique things in general, and I love college mascots. So, here's a unique college mascot. And I do always love kind of the history behind mascots, because there always is something. Even a general, when you talk about a general Wildcat or Tiger, which is I think the most common high school mascot is a tiger. My high school was Tigers as well. Usually there's some story behind it. One of your brothers there in your area, the Pitt State Gorillas, and it's like, well, why is a gorilla in the middle of Kansas? Like, there actually is a reason why, and sometimes those are student body led back in the day. But I love how they stick, and I love when you can build your culture around whatever positive attributes. So when you talk about the steadfastness of a mule and things like that, that's pretty cool. And it's got to be, because I can't think of too many school where they have a not technically a separate mascot for the
Yeah.
men and the women's athletics. There's not many. Tennessee used to have the Vols and Lady
Yep.
Vols,
Relay
and
Vols,
that
yeah.
is technically different. But I can't even think of any off the top of my head that have two different ones.
Yeah, I can't either. And
Yeah.
another cool thing is we actually have live mascots. So if you come to football games, basketball games, special events, you're going to see the mules running around. So it's pretty cool.
Well, PETA is calling, so we're gonna ignore that call and hop into
I mean, they have this fancy farm that they live on. They're
I'm
treated
sure.
better
I'm
than,
sure. I'm
you
sure. I'm sure.
know.
Hey, I used to work at Mississippi State and loved the bulldog. So I do like live mascots. I also understand why people have controversy
Oh, totally.
and all that good stuff. But anyway, Kevin, let's hop in our Wayback Machine here. Where does, assuming you were an athlete of track and field in some
Yeah.
form or fashion, where does track and field start for you, my friend?
Yeah, so I'm one of the younger cousins, on my dad's side. So I always looked up to my cousins who ran track. They played basketball. They ran cross country. So early on, growing up in Hobart, Indiana, that's what I wanted to be. I looked up to those guys. So I did never had, reservations of ever running, track and field. So it's something that I did because my older cousins did it and I wanted to be like them. And from day one, I really fell in love with the sport. The city of Hobart is just a really special place for me. Very similar to your background, Mike. We grew up around industries, and I'm sure you had a ton of family members that worked, those blue collar steel mill jobs and things like that. But I was immediately filled with some incredible mentors and just some really, really special people, from Betty Cunningham. It's at the middle school level. She still to this day is running marathons and could kick my butt in one. I'll tell you
Dude.
that right now. But she filled with so many people, um, that loved the sport and that were passionate about it. Hobart was a big time football school with Down Howell and being those legends. I was always kind of smaller until really my high school years. So, my mom, tried to keep me away from football as much as possible. But, really loved to play basketball, baseball. I played anything and everything, but, from day one, my passion was always in track and field.
Did you gravitate towards any specific events or, typically, hopefully, I should say typically, when we're younger, we do them all in
Yeah.
some form or fashion. What was your event group progress through high school?
Yeah, so middle school I was doing everything. I was doing
Good.
long jump, I was doing hurdles very poorly. But by the time when I joined my freshman year cross country, so really became quickly kind of a middle distance runner, running the 400 and the 800 and the 4x8. In high school I ran for a year underneath Jim Johnston, just a legendary Indiana coach. National champion in the pole vault in the
Wow.
1950s at Purdue. Just, I mean, just incredible, incredible person. So I got the honor to run with him on his last year, and just was just this super unique guy. That was just ahead of his time, with lifted weights before anybody before that. I think it's kind of cool a lot of times football coaches really, they don't want their athletes to be coached by anybody else. But even a legend in Don Howell in the city of Hobart knew that Coach Johnson was ahead of his time. So his best linemen, his best quarterbacks, his running backs, and they went and lifted with Coach JJ.
Wow.
So that was really, really cool. Having that legend from there. That year he also had some incredible assistant coaches that really shaped my high school years and how I viewed the sport, how I viewed myself. Coach Bird, Coach Blake, Coach Black, Coach May, and then my senior year, Coach Arthur Holtz, who is still the head coach over at Hobart, took a teaching position, and it's those so I grew up with a pretty severe learning disability, really poor grades. to be completely honest with you, Mike, I thought I was going to be working in those steel mills, like my family, and there's nothing wrong with that. They have, my grandpa was always so proud that, he worked in the steel mills. My family worked in the steel mills. He would always tell people that, hey, we built this country. It took a lot of pride in that.
Right.
But Coach May, my sophomore year, came in and took over, in our history department, and didn't really have a background of my freshman year, which was, I think I finished the year just good enough to stay eligible to run track, and that was the only thing I was striving for. If it
Mm,
took a D, in English class to be able to run the next meet, I was going to get a D, and there
yeah.
was going to be nothing else. He pushed me to really. Find a better purpose, where there was other options beyond just the steel mill or
Mhm.
working in a shop and things like that. And he pushed me, if this is something that you want to do, and you have those opportunities to do it further beyond high school, that I should chase those dreams.
I kind of
Um,
I kind of want to double click on that if you'll allow
yeah,
me, Kevin, about your learning disability and something that you said there that I just kind of recently caught I live my life on Twitter, I like to say, and I recently caught a tweet that kind of struck me as I started thinking about my own background, the stereotypical background of athletes and coaches and grades and things like that. You said that, track, and let's expand this to sports, although, obviously we're going to stay focused on track here, that track meant so much to you. And I want to dig into that as well. You obviously had a great relationship with your coaches.
yeah,
Um, that whatever it took academically, well, that's what I was going to do. If I needed a D, if I needed an A, if I had
yeah,
to ace this paper, this test. And I recently saw this tweet talking about kind of something like that of like, it might have actually been Tony Holler, who we just had as a guest a few weeks
yeah,
ago, that when a kid is whether it's academic issues or home, what would you call it? Discipline issues, typically one of the things that we do is we take away extracurriculars. Like, well,
yeah,
hey, until you get your grades up, you can't do sport. And I remember actually, I think it was grades. I might have been disciplinary. I remember I couldn't do middle school football, which I'm kind of thankful that I did. I did high school football, but I'm kind of glad, I was like, all right, well, I probably didn't need to have my head banged around. But I
exactly.
remember I either got in trouble or a grade or something. And my mom said, well, then I'm going to take you out of middle school football so you can focus on your grades. And I think it was Tony. I'll give him. I'm sure he would think this way, so I'm going to give him credit since I can't think of that person. It was like great sports sometimes and other extracurricular activities, chess clubs, whatever. Uh, give kids structure and
100%.
motivation. And you're talking about like because it makes me feel like here in your story and you comment off this statement here that if it would have been taken away from you, it was like, hey, Kevin, you're not doing good enough in history and
Yeah.
chemistry and things like that. So no more track until you get your grades up. That'll give you more time to study. I'm not sure. It doesn't sound like maybe that would have worked in your case.
Not at all, So I struggled and still struggle in the academic, landscape of those things significantly. Track and sports was the even playing field for me. I knew, with my disability, I would be taken out of class. I would miss recess to work extra on, my math, tests that I did poorly on, things like that. So early on, and when you have that learning disability, you know that you're different, and this is hereditary. My grandpa, struggled to read. I don't believe that he even graduated. My dad barely graduated.
Mm.
Um, so I knew, I'm a father now, that there would be that possibility that this goes down to my children,
Mhm.
and it has.
Mhm.
They both have speech apraxia and things like that. And
Mhm.
that's a challenge as a father.
Yeah.
Um, but early on, like, I think this goes on, further to, my coaching career, and how I view being a coach is like, I wanted my academic journey to be so much more than mine.
Mm.
I wanted that opportunity to go to college. And, I'll be honest with you, when I went to college, I never thought that I would graduate,
Mm.
because that's something that my father couldn't do.
Mhm.
My grandfather couldn't do. Um, so when I got that degree, it was really, really cool. But I knew that, my children might struggle with this as
Yeah.
well. So I wanted to be that role model to them. So I
Yeah.
went and got my master's degree as well.
Dude.
So I want to make sure that, because I was pushed, by my incredible family
Yeah.
to be my very, very best. That's in return, when, I have a daughter that's in second grade, and she has a tough day, um, and we do those things, um, that she knows that dad understands. It's going to be hard.
Yeah.
There's that path forward. If you really work hard and put in the extra work to make sure that there's a successful path, and she can become whatever she decides to be. I think that was, I'll give my grandpa the biggest shout out in the world. Is he worked in the steel mills, and my cousins did that. My dad drove a truck over the road his entire life, but he would just gush about his family.
Mhm.
I was a very average collegiate athlete, and I'm sure we'll
Mhm.
get to that. But I could still remember running at Purdue, and I think I got second in the slow heat, but he thought it
Mhm.
was the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
And, he would go to the grocery store that next week, and, anybody that knows my grandpa knows that he's a talker, but he would corner you in the milk aisle and tell you about the race that I just ran. And he
Yeah.
was so proud of his sons and daughter, and just being the very best worker in the steel mill, or at the trucking company that my dad worked for. And I think being around that growing up, it really just kind of reinforces it. It doesn't matter what you do,
Mm.
but in my family, you better be the very best at it.
I think that's important when we were talking about, the impact coaches make and our parents make, and maybe the impact your coaches made. You talked about, and we will get into your college years here in a little bit. But I'll say society, but it's easy. Let's just say it this way. It's easy. And I don't like to blame social media, because before social media, newspapers did this as well. And the local coffee shop would do this. It's easy to pick up and talk about the stud, in track and field, the stud athlete in track, and that, what they're doing, and they're setting records, they're going to state and all this kind of things. And it's a little bit harder to know that, oh, well, there's 100 kids on the team. And even that 100th kid is important. No, they're not the record setters, but that's okay, because guess what? There's 100 other kids that aren't on the track team that aren't doing this, and you can insert any sport you want on the football team, tennis
Exactly.
team,
Yeah.
etc. In that, the percentage of kids that go on to be a college athlete is super small. I think it's like, I know there's no like official records. We like to do it off the NCAA records, but we forget that there's also NAIA opportunities and JUCO
Yeah.
opportunities and things. But it's under 10%. I would be willing to bet. It's still single
Oh,
digits
absolutely.
that go into college, and then the percentage that go on from college that can make any kind of living, however you want to define that, as post collegiate, is even smaller. So if this sport boils down to, well, only the kids that go to college matter in our sport, well, golly, we're missing 90+% of the
Absolutely.
individuals that do our sport. And by the way, that's just because of statistics alone. That's where the majority of our coaches are going to come from, is that other 90%, not the superstar. So anyway, so I appreciate that kind of connection of like, well, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it the best that you can, and that matters. Just like you said, the people who work in the steel mill, that matters just as much as the CEO of whatever big company, things like that. We need all and everything in
Absolutely.
between. So I recognize that, and big time. How did as you were struggling academically, some people, everybody's a little different, and this may go towards your own children now, as you're talking about as a parent. You outside looking in, had the ability to have a chip on your shoulder, not a chip on your shoulder, but like, oh, I'll be the first. That's a form of chip on your shoulder. You're not going against
Absolutely.
anybody, but it's like, oh, I don't have this example in front of me of my grandpa and my dad as far as going to college. So I'm going to overcome that. You know, you have children now who have an example in front of them of like, oh wow, even with this, I can go on to be college and become very successful.
Yeah.
So they're not going to have that chip on their shoulder. They're going to have their a different battle to overcome. How did you think about, like, when you're thinking about college and even athleticism with, because again, percentage is small. I mean, just going to college would have been a big deal. You would college to actually compete. That's unbelievable, actually. Uh, Many of us don't. I didn't get to compete in college. Uh, how did you, was it a chip on your shoulder? Was it, I'm going to overcome the odds? Was it just, I just want to be a college athlete? How did you
Yeah.
think about those next steps? And as it relates to like maybe the influence your coaches had on that feeling as well.
Yeah, so I went to the University of St. Francis. I signed there and was there for 2 years, and it was pretty similar to
In Indiana,
in Indiana, Fort Wayne.
because we have one here in Illinois as well. And there's
Yes,
probably
yes,
a couple others out there. So yeah,
yeah,
Indiana.
yeah.
Yep,
So,
got it.
so
Got it.
Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Hold on, I know this. The Saints, right?
No, they're the Cougars.
Cougars. They're blue and white, if I remember.
Yes, blue and
Yeah,
white.
okay, I had that right. Okay, the Cougars. Got it. Okay, keep going.
Yep, they're the Cougars. So, and it was pretty similar. I was just doing enough to kind of get back by. I think the biggest difference for me, between high school and college. In high school, my mentors were always my teachers and my coaches,
Mhm.
and still to this day. Um, those are people that they're top of my list, people that I want to make sure that I don't let down. But in college, I didn't really have that relationship with a coach.
Mhm.
It was with my teammates,
Mhm.
that really pushed me to do those things. So at St. Francis, I have some incredible roommates that I still stay in touch with.
But before we get into actual college, go back to high school.
Yeah,
Sometimes well-meaning adults, and I'm going to stay focused on your track coaches there, uh, don't want our kids to fail. And I say well-meaning because failure is a part of life, and we
absolutely.
have to allow our kids and ourselves to fail, try new things and fail. Did How was the high school coaches you had when you weren't a great athlete? I'm hearing per se. We know you struggled academically.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like a mirror, by the way. I wasn't a great student either, and definitely was not the greatest athlete. But I wondered, what was their attitude towards you when you started getting into, maybe junior and senior year of high school, of like, man, I love this sport. I want to keep doing this. Was there any like, hey, Kevin, just going to college is going to be a big deal for you and your family? Like, was there any of that, or was it like complete encouragement? Like, dude, go try. You might not do well, by the way, but go try it. So was there kind of trying to protect you from failing to being a college athlete, or was there like encouragement of like, man, go give it a try, buddy?
No, that they encouraged me 100%, and that's what gave me that confidence. I think, I think in anything that you do, whether it be coaching, whether it be in sales or, making steel, if you have that safety net where if you're not afraid to try something that might be successful, because you're afraid to fail. I think having that safety net is so important.
Mhm.
And that's what they gave me. They gave me that safety net.
Mhm.
I think they saw my passion and my work ethic. They saw me have success on the track that would, in return, find me some success in the classroom. I really turned that around. I made the honor roll a few times in high school. After that, they
Dude,
challenged me with those things and really put a lot more effort into, doing the things that I needed to do to be successful.
that's cool.
Without their encouragement, I would have never taken the SAT.
Yeah, right, right.
Without their encouragement, I wouldn't have taken it a second time. So I could have gotten into University of St. Francis.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was a special moment, for them following my college career.
That's
And still to this day, I'm super close with that group.
That's cool. All right, one of my favorite. Well, actually, before I ask my favorite question, what kind of track athlete were you? And what I mean by that, I honestly, I don't know that I've ever asked a single guest what their actual PRs were because it doesn't matter to me whether you're. And we've had Olympians on here, and we've had people
Yeah.
that didn't, and we have people that haven't even didn't even do track on the show as well. So I don't care that type when I say what type of athlete were you. What I mean is, as it relates to, spoiler alert, we know you become a track coach. Were you the type of athlete that like asked a lot of questions like, hey, what are we doing for the workout today? Why did we do this yesterday and this today? Not in a accusatory, but like in a
Yeah.
curious mindset. Or were you like, because this is the majority of us, right? We're dumb 17, 18-year-old kids. We're just like, all right, what are we running today, coach? All right, let's go do it. What kind of like athlete were you back as a teenager?
I was a huge dork in general in pretty much anything I did, but especially when it came to track and field. So I was doing the research. I mean, we're at the age right now where like, I think, high school was the first time that I ever got internet at my house.
Yeah, sure,
It
sure,
was
sure.
always that one, like there was like three computers in high schools when we went
Yeah.
to, which is
Yeah.
it's crazy to think that. But anytime that I could jump on, any website that was about track and field, I would go to Barnes and Noble and look in the sports section if they had any books about training or anything
Yep.
like that. I was buying them.
Cool.
And I was trying something, and I think, fast forward to where I'm at right now, what has made me successful in what I'm doing right now is because I had to get every ounce out of myself.
Right.
Any secret that was out there, I better find, or else I was going to get my butt kicked pretty good.
Right. I love it.
So I think I think fast forward to what I'm doing now is having those being average and trying to be a little step above average.
Yeah.
I had to work that extra hard.
Yeah.
And my coaches saw that. And I think any coach that sees that and sees that work ethic really gravitates to that student athlete.
Yeah.
So
That's cool.
um, it was awesome.
So one of my favorite questions, because I'm the guy, I used to do this more. I haven't done this actually as much in the last 5, 6 years. Whenever I'd get introduced to a new coach, like, oh, this was our GA, or this is their first full-time job, I'd always say, so what did you major in? They always invariably tell me something super smart, chemistry, architect, all this stuff. And I'd be like, and yet you want to be a track coach. Like you could be doing so many amazing things. And no one's a bigger
Totally.
fan of track coaches than I am, but I'm like, you could be curing cancer and you're gonna try to make this kid PR in the high jump. What are you doing? But what I get at here with this question is, so when you're looking to go to college and you end up going to University of St. Francis there in Indiana, what were you thinking about, like to major in? Like, what, it still boggles me that we make
Yeah.
18-year-olds pick like something that's going to affect their lives
Isn't that crazy?
the rest of their life. It's crazy. What were you thinking about? And was track coaching track at all in the purview as a 17, 18-year-old kid?
Oh, not even close. I wouldn't have known, when I was 17, 18-year-olds going to college, what that path to become a college track coach was all about.
Right. What's that even look
You
like?
know,
Right.
exactly. So my biggest mentors were my high school coaches.
Hmm.
So I originally went into physical education,
Hmm.
um, and wanted to kind of become a teacher
Yeah.
and coach. I quickly found out that wasn't for me, and kind of switched to business.
Hmm.
So my focus, that was, in the days of, movies like Boiler Room and,
Oh
all
yeah.
these things, like, so that's what I was going to do. I was going to do it the legit way, so the FBI didn't, come raid the office. But,
Hey,
you know,
by the way, shout out if you have not seen it, because I don't know that it's that big of a movie, even though it has
it's not. It's incredible.
Ben
Vin
Affleck, right?
Diesel. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't even think of. Yeah.
It's a really, like, if you like what's a similar esque, like theme wise movie would be like The Wolf of Wall Street. Now that
Yes.
focused very much on that dude, Jordan, I think was his name. Another great movie, by the way. But if you remember if you saw Wolf of Wall Street, remember that scene where he gets his first job and he calls the people to sell him the stock, and everybody's like, wow, holy crap. That's what Boiler Room is. They're just trying to sell
Yes.
penny stocks essentially and make their
100%.
commission and yeah, all that stuff. It's a really good movie. But again, I don't know that a lot
You
of
got to check
people
it out.
know it, so you got to check it out. I agree. I
You got
agree.
to check it out.
I love that it was like inspiration for you. Like, yeah, I saw Boiler Room and was like, I'd like to do
Absolutely.
that legally, but I'd like to do that. Yeah,
Yeah,
cool, cool,
you
cool.
know, they were driving the fast cars,
That's
but
right.
that's what I wanted to do, you
Yeah,
know, and I graduated, and it was a tough, we were in during the recession when I graduated, and it was a tough job market,
yeah.
but I was lucky enough to get that dream job. I
Mhm.
got a corporate sales position at a company called Echo Global Logistics, still
Really?
based in Chicago. Right when I took the position, it went public. I think they were making $300 million back then, multiple billion-dollar company now. Um, but I always, when talking with my recruits, I talk about my journey, but you know, I I really push them to, you know, don't think what I was thinking. I wanted to make a bunch of money. My goal was to live downtown Chicago, go to as many White Sox and Bears games as possible. Um, and I had no idea. My whole life outlook is based on one movie. And Hollywood is gonna glamorize
Yeah.
everything. But I quickly learned, going in sales, um, especially doing logistics. So that was the company. We were
Right.
shipping things across the country.
Mm.
And I found some success with that, but my day literally revolved around getting Slim Jims from point A to point B. You know, and I felt no passion in that.
Mm.
It was a pain in the butt when my driver missed a delivery or something was damaged in the process, and it was just miserable.
Mhm.
And throughout my college career, I always went back to Hobart and helped out, in a volunteer role or a small paid stipend role. Um, so again, it took the encouragement, from those high school coaches to, well, if you're not passionate about what you're doing, go find something that you are passionate about.
Mhm.
And that's really kind of what made me make that change from the business world to intercollegiate athletics.
So what was the first change? Yeah, what was the first change into that? So what was the first job into athletics?
So the first, kind of, I was at a low point, kind of miserable with what I did, and
Right.
I met this guy. I know you know him, Doug Edgar, over in
Yeah.
Indian, and I drove to Fort Wayne where I went to school, so I was familiar with it, and he gave me this incredible offer. He's like, I'm going to pay you $0, and you can get your master's degree for free. Well, I'm like, I would rather have the money, but if this gets my foot in the door, let's do it. And I had some money saved up, from working. That's, I took the leap of faith.
How long did you do the job at Echo?
So I was just there for a little over a year.
How, how do it's interesting. I've actually seen both sides to this as advice, and I actually kind of believe in both sides a little bit. When you're young, you graduate college, you're 22, 23-ish, maybe 21-ish. You have so much life ahead of you.
Yeah,
It's the time to take risk. Meaning, try this job. I get this advice from a guy named Gary V, where he talks about like what you want to do for a job and career, like a buffet. Like go taste. Like, oh, you think maybe shipping logistics? Go try that job. And you think track coaching? Go get an intern over here. Because even if you're at the age of 30 and you still don't, and maybe that's when you finally decide, oh, I want to go do this X, Y, or Z. Dude, 30. That's I know when we were teenagers, we thought 30 was like I thought 30 was like one foot in the grave. Like you were dead at 30. In reality, now I'm like, dude, 30. I finally found my career. That's 30 is when I started Gill. That was my third career. I finally found what I was put here for.
yeah,
But then I've also heard the very opposite of like, oh, because you're so young, get a job so where you can put all, as much money into,
yeah.
your retirement because of compounding interest. You'll be a millionaire when you retire, things like that. But there has to be some, I shouldn't say that. What level of fear, you're in a job, you got a job. I hate to say that's not easy. I mean, to get
Yeah,
a job that's, at least well paying enough that you can live and things like that, to go into coaching, you've never you were helping out. I get that.
yeah.
But, oh, and by the way, we're not going to pay you. So there's a little bit of like, okay, wait a minute. I'm getting paid at least every 2 weeks. I'm going to go do this. how much fear, or was it like super simple? Like, okay, I hate this logistics job so much, I'm willing to go get paid zero to get away
Yeah.
from it.
No, it was the easiest decision that I've ever made in my
Hmm.
life. Leaving that Doug's office. It was a really cool time in the history of the Indiana Tech program. He was just taking over as head
Hmm.
coach.
Hmm.
Really, the program itself was in a really bad place. The coaches that he took over for just weren't very good people.
Hmm.
Weren't coaching for the right reasons, made everything about themselves, kind of put fear, um, in the student athletes, threatening to take away scholarships and things like that for, based
Right.
on performances and things like that. So it was just in a really bad space. But we had some amazing kids that were hungry to get better and wanting to do the things the right way. So my first practice, the first time I was in the office with Doug, like I knew this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
All right, pause there because I definitely want to click into that because I'm always I wish I could remember like my first day at Gill, my first day of coach. Like I wish I had those memories, and you seem to have that. So I'm going to click on that. First, I've got to give Doug a shout out. He is Gill podcast alum.
Yeah.
So if you're whatever podcast app you're using now, when you get done with this episode, you can listen to Doug. And he is. It'll tell you how popular Mr. Doug is here. NAIA national champion. I don't know, a billion times or
A
something like
million
that.
times. Yeah.
He is. We're past episode 300 now. He is out of all our episodes. He's hanging on, but he is number 10 most downloaded, most listened to episode. And I think I love that. I love that Boosh Nader is number one, first of all, because that's my mentor.
Yeah.
And big school SU and all those kind of things. I love that. But I love that a coach from Indiana Tech is number 10 out of all the amazing coaches we've had, by the way. So go check his episode out. All right, Kevin, first day, first practice. Your face shined, by the way, when you kind of intern. I could see you playing the movie in your head. Uh, like a duck to water. You just fell into it, and this was like, this is the greatest thing in the world.
Absolutely. I'll even back that up to the interview. So, I mean, Doug is this super unique guy. We sat in the interview and he added up the conference meet. This is the middle of the summer. It's probably end of July. We're 2 weeks away from reporting as well. And they hadn't won conference,
Right.
in the past couple of years, but he mapped it out. This is what we're going to do here. This is what we're going to do here, and we're going to win a conference championship. So it was just, and that's something that I still will do. I'll come in, middle of indoor season, and every Monday I'm looking at, TFers, I'm looking at the list. I'm kind of, seeing where we're at when it comes to those things. So immediately from day one, that's something that Doug put in my head.
How much? Let's talk about this. I should have named the podcast the Tangent Podcast because your host here is a tangent guy. Now, I'm going to self admit that I also did this as well. So I have this picture exactly what you're talking about. This kind of beautiful mind picture. You've got,
Mhm.
60 and the 200 and the 460 hurdle, and you got all the, you got this school there, this athlete's pegged for number one and blah, blah, blah. And we need this many points and blah, blah, blah. Why do we do this to ourselves? And what I mean by that is you have been through enough conference meets and national meets and such like that there's always not even one, there's a handful of just things that
Absolutely.
go that you just no one ever predicted. The kid, the favorite in the hurdles falls, and so there goes those 10 points, and now you're up 2 points. Why do we map this out? It just seems I don't know that a football coach maps out their entire game of like, okay, well, they're going to score on their first one and then we'll stop them for two defensive. But we do as track coaches, all 20 something events,
Absolutely.
we try to predict the future. And I've had coaches come on here and say, oh, and I had it down to the point. It's like, yeah, maybe, but the addition to those points did not map out how you said it because someone dropped a baton, somebody had a huge
Exactly.
PR that you didn't see, things like that. Why do we do this to ourselves? And I know you learned it from Doug. Why does Doug do this and pass it on to you?
Yeah, because we just want to be stressed the entire time. We want to do those things. No, it's our competitive nature.
Do you
You
think?
know,
Do you think it's actually here's what my belief is now? I sit on a different fence. So when I coached for 10 years, I was this monkey that did it. Here's the 100. Here's exactly how it's going to go down. It never happened. I wonder now. having, again, I sit in a pretty unique place. I have deeply interviewed 300 plus coaches of all levels. I wonder if it's our grasp at trying to keep control.
Yeah, I could see that. I know, when I do it, I'll bring it down to my student athletes, to kind of create that confidence. Hey,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I think, because I think every coach has a different way of doing those things.
Hmm.
Like if it's tied in the 60, I'll take both of those athletes top 3 times and average it out.
Oh,
You
dude.
know, and
Oh,
I'll use that to motivate my student athlete. Like, hey, yeah, so and so might be a hundredth of a second faster than you, but you're average. You're just more consistent, and that's what matters at a championship and things like that. So everything that I do, I try to kind of bring that confidence when it comes to those student athletes.
do,
But
do
yeah,
you do you use it for that athlete, probably typically male, to be honest with you, from my experience, that says, Coach, I'm gonna win the 100 or whatever event, and you're like, all right, let's look at this, Johnny. You're 10th right now, and by golly, I'd love for you to be number one. You're gonna have to PR by 3/10, and I haven't seen that. Do you ever use that? Not a. I used to say, the difference between coaching men and women in my experience has been with men. Every male, broad swipes here. No matter how good or how bad, no matter how much, like, they were all in on practice, or they, skip
yeah,
practices, things like that. They all thought they were going to win the friggin' gold medal at the Olympics. And so I always had to, like, bring them down a peg of, like, hey, if you want to do that, here's the things you're going to have to do. Every woman, again, big swaths here, that I've ever coached, no matter how great or, not so athletically
yeah,
talented they were, never thought they could win anything. And it was always so with women, it was always like, I'm trying to pick, like, you can win the, and I
exactly.
prefer that, by the way, than
Yes,
the former.
100%.
But so do you ever had that with, like, with Johnny, like, Johnny, you say you're gonna win, but boss, come on, look where you're at. And by the way, you missed practice last Monday. Well, how's that a conference winning attitude?
Exactly. Yeah. We as a coach, we always do the goal settings and things like
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
And, I'll use it both ways. I'll use it to motivate them and show them, hey,
Yeah.
your goal was to be top 3 and you won the conference championship. That's
Right.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But on
That's
the flip
true.
side, when you do got that Johnny and he's 5 minutes late
Yeah.
to practice, you always
Yeah.
throw it back
Or,
at
or,
Johnny and be
or
like,
why am I not a
hey,
full ride, coach? It's like,
exactly.
bro,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
10th. You're 10th, man.
Yeah,
Come on, go.
yeah, I'm like, "Johnny, conference champ's not 5 minutes late."
Yeah, that's right.
Conference champ isn't, asking to lift early on a Friday so you can go to the high school football
Oh,
game,
wait a
Johnny.
minute. So I haven't coached in 20 years. That still happened? Because
Oh,
that's
that still happens,
okay. I was going to say, because as
Yeah.
soon as you said that, I was like, oh my God, how many times have I heard that in my life? Oh my, that still happens? Holy crap. Yeah, Fridays.
Oh,
Can we
yeah.
go early? Yep.
Exactly,
Mhm.
so,
And they still show up late, even if you make it early. They still show up late sometimes.
exactly. Yep.
Kids.
Yeah, I
All
mean,
right.
yeah, it's crazy what we do.
So, and by the way, Teefers has, I didn't have Teefers when I coached. That has made all this stuff a lot easier to do that. All right. Off our tangent, back into it. You start working for Indiana Tech.
Yeah,
How much for a guy like Doug's a very, and again, you can go back and listen to the podcast. There's a reason why I distinctly remember the program was not very good. It was a pretty bad place into what Doug has raised it up
yeah,
now. How much, I'm going to say trust, and I'm not sure that's necessarily the right word, but it's the essence of it. How much of a leash did he give you? You ain't coached.
yeah.
You're brand new. You don't know. You competed. That's awesome. That plays into your coaching, but you don't know how to talk to a kid, how to convey what you want them to do, verbally, examples, etc. How much leash did he give you initially?
Yeah, he gave me a huge leash. It
Yeah.
was really cool, So it was I look at back at that time as just being such a important place, from where I'm at right now. But between me, Doug, and then Josh Wolf was there as our cross country coach. We are, Doug. We're all the same age. We all turned 40 this year.
Mm.
Um, but Doug's birthday was in September. Josh was in October. Mine's in November. So
Mm.
we are
That's
sitting
cool.
here
Wow.
24, 25 years old. We were given the keys to this program that I think, all 3 of us felt could be, a national championship program. And Here you guys go, figure it out. So I learned a lot from, the different recruiting styles from Doug and Josh that first year. That has, continued to help me in terms of recruiting.
Mm.
Doug is relentless when it comes to those things. He is,
Mm.
no one, calls as many kids that he does, has as many visits as he does.
Mm.
It's just absolutely incredible. So from the first time sitting in with him, making those phone calls late at night, or sitting with him at one of his campus visits, I really kind of found my own way to kind of recruit. And the three of us just kind of went and divided and conquered.
Mm.
Brought in a really, really great class. I was only at Indiana Tech for 1 year, but that recruiting class was I think that Doug would agree is really the defining class of what has become Indiana Tech. I think 16, maybe 18. I'm not sure. I lost count. I'm not,
Yeah, yeah.
that's 10 fingers. I'm not good with counting toes. Um, I've lost count, but I mean, what an incredible journey he has done. Like I said, we are 40. That guy right there has an indoor facility named after him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We explored that. Like, how do you keep your ego in check with that?
Right, it
Because
is
I wouldn't.
absolutely incredible. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. I'd be like, yeah, just meet me at my building. Oh, and you'll know it because my name's. I would continually do that with everybody.
Exactly. Like how does that work?
Yeah, yeah.
I have some visits on campus tomorrow. We're going to meet in the Jerry Hughes
Yeah,
Center.
exactly.
That's where we're going to meet. How do
That's
you send that? Like, hey, we're going to meet at the Doug Edgar
that's true. That's
indoor,
true. Good
field
for him.
house. Like,
How did I remember those days. So recruiting was a big aspect for me. I really enjoyed that in my entire coaching career. And I remember, a good friend of mine, Chris Baptista, shout out to him, who's also a podcast alum. He coached at Fresno State, Cal Poly. He and I were together at Troy, the greatest university in the world. And, we would be up till midnight. And this was really before internet. This was like when DieStat was just getting
yeah,
off, nationally. And I remember, I say he was the maniac. I was there as well, but he would have a handwritten, legal pad of, the top 40, 100-meter kids we wanted to go after, and
yeah,
probably 50. And I just remember relentless, we had no money. So we would drive, 8 hours into Florida for the state meet or county meet or whatever. And then 8 hours, but, we'd get home at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., things like that. Things that I look back now and I'm like, what a bunch of dummies. Like, what were we thinking? There had to be other ways to be more efficient and effective. How did you, when you see this in front, because you're learning, like you're just soaking up all this. You don't know how to recruit. You were recruited, but
yeah.
that's you forgot about that. That was as an 18-year-old. Now you've got to do it. How did you see what was in front of you with Josh and the way he did it, with the way Doug he did it? You're a smart enough guy. You probably talk to other people at meets and things like
Yeah.
that. Those conversations come up. How did you figure out your own style? Yeah, how did you figure out your own style? And you're probably still developing, I would think, at
Yeah.
especially early in this 24-year-old age.
Yeah, I've always been passionate about the sport, so I think recruits see that. I always tell my recruits, like, if you take one thing away from this visit, I want you to take, how passionate I am about this sport and the development of my student athletes, and that was really has been my approach from day one is, again, I was making no money. The only way that I can get a paycheck from the university was getting, reimbursing my miles. So I
Mm,
went to as many
sure.
high school meets as possible.
Yeah.
In the fall, I was, being a Northwest Indiana guy, and Josh being, from Northeast Indiana, he would be going, to New Haven for that semifinal. I'd be going to New Prairie. I'd be going
Right.
to, the DAC conference and doing all of those things.
Right.
And I think I was getting paid like 58 cents per mile. So I mean that's better than nothing.
Yeah.
It helped pay for a little bit of food every few weeks.
So you spend a year there.
Mhm.
I always like to ask. Well, I should say this is the way I believe it should work. It doesn't really. When you're doing a GA work and you're working on your master's, it's kind of like a GA situation for you. When you finish your master's, your graduate studies there, I truly think it should still be a fork in the road. Most of the time we're GA and it's like, oh, I'm doing this only because I want to become a track coach. I still think that there should be an off ramp. Like you should figure out, like really ask yourself, now, do you want to do this full time? And for the rest of your life, basically. And that's okay if you don't, because now you have a great undergrad education and a great master's education going on. How did you, at the end of that year, what was the decision to stay, go back into logistics? You're a
Yeah.
smart guy. You had a lot of options and network there. What was that decision point like?
Yeah, after that year, I got a phone call from Sean Venable, who's at Liberty
Mm,
right now, the associate
mhm,
head coach. He's just incredible. But he was at Bacone College in Muskogee, Oklahoma,
mhm,
and he had a full time job.
mhm.
Wasn't paying a lot. I think I might have made $25,000 that year. But he's like, hey, I want to bring you in for an interview, but I can't pay to fly you out here or do anything like that. So you're gonna have to, make
Mhm.
the trip from Fort Wayne to Oklahoma on your own dime.
Right.
And I'm like, well, when do I leave? Like when can we meet?
Yeah.
Like let's do those things. And I worked with Sean, who's just,
Love him.
he's incredible.
Mhm,
Talk about passion. I talk about my passion. Like, I don't think you could find someone more passionate about the
mhm,
sport and life in general than Sean. And he's just absolutely incredible. I still love that guy to death.
mhm,
But got to work, full time for my first time helping
mhm,
him out. It was just a 2-man team,
mhm.
So he's like, "Can you coach distance?" I'm like, "I can coach anything that you want me to, as long as I get to hang out with the sprinters from time to time. I'll do anything." So I was hired there to coach the distance program, and you know halfway through the semester, he's like, "You're going to coach throws too." I'm like, "Okay, well, we'll do that too."
Ah,
Small NAIA program.
yeah.
We had a lot of success with that, and it was just an incredible year with Sean.
How did he find, this is, uh, we have internet for sure, but it's not like it is
Yeah,
today. And I will probably say that every year of my life for the rest of my life. But like, how did he find you? This Indiana kid, he's over in
yeah.
Oklahoma. How did he find you to reach out for the job?
Well, I think what Doug was building at Indiana Tech. Indiana Tech starting that year was really making a name for itself in the
Mm,
NAIA, and Bacone College, super small school.
yeah.
I don't think it exists anymore. I think that they closed the doors a few years ago.
Mm,
But Sean was doing it all on his own. So was able to get this full time position. And I think he saw that development of what Indiana Tech had became,
mm,
and really wanted that to really kind of be what Bacone would become,
mm.
as well. So I think, through a couple, and this is what our sport's all about. It's just kind of, buddies and things like that. I think that this would be a good guy, people that you trust, and my name was brought up, and it was, I think it was a phone call or a Facebook message or something
Mhm.
like that. And, I think the next day I was on the road to Oklahoma.
Sean, I've known Sean for a long time. Absolutely is the kind of guy who observes. So that makes a lot of sense. Okay, Kevin, you grew up in Northwest Indiana, call it Chicago adjacent. You go to Northeast Indiana. All I'm hearing is Indiana, though, and now you go to Oklahoma. Now, I used to live and coach in Kansas and recruited Oklahoma a lot.
Mhm.
It's a little different, although there's some similarities, but there's some unique differences, even so much of just geography. You're away from family and
Yeah.
friends and things like that. How did you adjust to that?
It was a challenge, it really was, obviously I had a great role model with Sean
Mm,
there. We spent a lot of time together. But it was different, it was, Muskogee, Oklahoma. I'm not knocking the city, but yeah, but it is way different than Fort Wayne, Indiana. Way different than anything that I had experienced.
mhm.
There wasn't much to do. A Friday night got a little crazy when you went to Walmart twice, but because you forgot, the laundry detergent the first time you did that. Because still to this day, I don't write a list of what I do because I think it's all up here. It drives my wife
I was
nuts.
about to say.
But
She's listening right now. She's like, mm-hmm, exactly.
absolutely. Yep. Yep. She's like, yeah, because it probably she's listening to it going to Walmart to pick up the milk I forgot. Um, but but the kids were wonderful, and I think that's the thing, even though, from a social network, I didn't have much. It was a very different culture than what I was used to. But when it comes to track and field, um, no matter where you're from, it stays the same. The 100 meters stays the same. The mile stays the same. That desire to become great stays the same. So being around those student athletes, really kind of helped me get through, some of the difficulties of not having that support system.
How different is it for you as a coach? You do a year where you're not getting paid anything. You're
Yeah,
you're making mileage. And now you got your first full-time job. As small as the salary was, I
yeah,
get it. But every 2 weeks or once a month, they gave you a check and you got to cash it and they didn't take it back. How does that change your, um, I don't know if motivation is the right word. I don't say psyche in regards to like it's a profession now.
yeah,
I am on record as saying I dislike volunteer coaches, not the people. I just dislike not
yeah,
paying people.
100%.
I'll say I fought our internship program. I was not on board with us having interns here at Gill because it was like, oh, we'll do free interns, and I'm like, man, I just have a hard time bringing I say a kid because I'm the age I'm at. No matter what we're having them do, they got to get paid something. I just feel like,
Yeah,
and we do now, and then we have interns and they're amazing. I love every intern we've had from, typically from University of Illinois. So I dislike volunteer coaches in that sense. Like they got to get paid something. I just feel like that. How does that for you when you start thinking about now? I am Coach Patterson. This looks like this might be my career. I'm now getting a check versus
yeah.
I wasn't, last year.
I mean, from day one, this is what I wanted to do for
Mhm.
my entire life. That's something that I loved. So I treated it like a profession when I was getting paid $0, and having to go to class at night just because that was part of my payment. There was a lot of times where I'm sure my professors didn't like it, but if it was econ class or a big meet with a recruit that we were trying to get after, econ class, kind of took the back seats back in those days. And that's something that, still to this day, I have two GAs, on staff here at Central Missouri. I encourage them, hey, treat this like a profession. Like if this is something that you want to do for the rest of your life,
Mhm.
you can't just naturally, turn that switch on where, okay, well, now I'm getting a paycheck. Now I have to do X, Y, and Z. If
Right.
you haven't done X, Y, and Z before getting that paycheck, it makes it that much more difficult in
I, I
terms of
I assume
things.
you have those same types of question or conversations with walk-ons. It's like, hey,
Yeah,
you don't get to just
absolutely.
turn it on because I give you a scholarship. You got to be showing it as the walk-on first. Yeah, yeah, that mak's a lot of sense.
Absolutely. So
Hmm.
that's how I've always approached it. And,
Hmm.
and anyone that, looks to me as a mentor, that's the first piece of advice that I do. Because if you've gone through a graduate assistant position and you never took a lead in the recruitment process, that is the time to learn it. Because with, a full-time position and things like that become other responsibilities. Um, you know, uh, you got to go to, you got to meet with the AD, you got to do this, you got to, meet with admissions where, those are things that, as a graduate assistant, Doug would always do.
Hmm.
Those 9 a.m., meetings with, the AD, I never had to attend, so I could stay up until, 2 o'clock in the morning, looking at results and emailing recruits and things like that, because I knew that I could kind of wander into the office, at 10 o'clock. If Doug's listening, he'll probably say it was probably a little bit later than that. So, that's where I kind of learned to kind of grind, and as I took my first, full-time position, I was single, I was able to kind of continue to do those things. And that's, if you can't recruit in this, it doesn't matter what type of coach you are. If you
Right.
can't recruit, you're not going to be very successful.
Yeah. So how long at Bacone?
So I was there for a year,
Okay.
and then I took another leap of faith and took my first head coaching job at 25. I think I was at teeny tiny Calumet College of St. Joseph, and so I took that team, and I think my first day was June 1st. It was right around regionals time in the state of Indiana. And I asked what my roster looked like, and they gave me a list of, I think, 4 or 5 names, and wished me luck. So we definitely didn't have a track team, let alone a cross country team. So we got to work. It's CCSJ, Calumet College is a super unique
Mhm.
institution. It is right across the street from the BP oil refinery.
Oh, wow.
It is one building. And when I started coaching there, it was one academic building, one gym, and it was strictly commuter. They just built dorms, I think,
Wow.
2 or 3 years ago, but it was a job that some of those people that I really kind of trusted kind of tried to steer me away from,
Hmm.
um, because they didn't think it could be successful.
What, what,
Um, you
what,
know,
what was the reason for taking that job? And what I mean by that is, and by the way, no judgment of what the actual reason was here. There's lots of reasons we take
yeah.
jobs. Was it more pay? Was it get back to the Midwest? Was it like, I want to learn how to become a head coach? So what's a better
Yeah.
way to do it than become a head coach? Was it, oh no, I see the diamond in this rough? What was the actual motivation?
I was immature and thought that I could be a head coach.
Yeah. Okay.
you
Yep.
know, I think that's what it was. I think if I, I've always been willing to kind of take a chance on myself.
Hmm.
But until Kara walked into my life, around this time, my wife, I was a knucklehead. If I didn't have her, who knows where I would be right now.
Hmm.
But I would make those rash decisions because, as a graduate assistant and then a full-time assistant coach, you're always looking to, kind of take that next step to become a head coach. And CCSJ offered me that position. So it was this new thing that I wanted to kind of show, everyone that I could become a head coach. I could build a winning program, a winning culture. So that's why I took it. And it was 30 minutes from where I grew up.
Hmm.
It was so being gone and on the road with recruiting for really the past 2 years.
Hmm.
I'd missed some things with my grandparents and my parents and my siblings. That it was spend when you're a track coach wherever you're at, especially during the season with Easter, you're doing it on your own.
Yeah.
When you don't have a significant other, you're going to the track meet on Saturday, you're coming back, and Easter
Yeah.
Sunday, you're sitting in front of the TV. Who knows what I was eating? I still not a very good cook.
Yeah.
It definitely was even worse back then. So probably like cereal or something like that on days like that. So having that opportunity to be around family, and then also staying, I'm still close with my high school coaches and things like that. Those are still to this day some of my best mentors in terms of those things. It was just a great opportunity.
Not a segment of us as track coaches believe we want to be a head coach.
Mhm.
Another segment want to be when they're ready, however you define that, want to be head coach. Others don't want to be head coach at all, and that's
Yeah.
fine too. What was the biggest difference? Now you're a pup in this game. You're 1 year as a
Yeah.
volunteer at Indiana Tech, you're 1 year as a full-time at Bacone, and now you're a head coach. So I don't even know that you know what a head coach does. You're still where's the track type of pup in your career here. What was the biggest difference you noticed though, as far as you were an assistant coach for 2 years, so you
Yeah.
kind of know the, I don't want to call it the pecking order, but what I'm responsible for, what they're responsible for, etc. Now you're kind of responsible for it. What was the biggest difference you noticed as head coach Paterson?
Oh man, it's been so long ago. I think the biggest thing is, and I think every assistant coach will admit to this if they like it or not, is the the most difficult, position as a head coach is, having the financial discussions. Hey, dad, lost his job, or, this isn't, I didn't get this scholarship like I had hoped. I can't afford to do this. Is there any more scholarship money available to those things? As, we are, like a lot of sports at the NCAA and NAI level, we're limited in what we have to spend. So sometimes you have to say no to those things. As an assistant coach, that was always, you want to have that discussion with the head coach.
Right.
And then I was right back to recruiting, right back to training and things like that. So really kind of, being that main point of contact for everybody on that team. For the past 2 years, it was my training group. That's who I was responsible for. And, whether it was Sean or whether it was Doug or Josh or someone like that, they were making sure that, we got lunch at the track meets, that, we were eating dinner later. And at the end of the day, we were making sure that we were, doing our receipts and balancing the budget and things like that. So I think with any assistant coach, whether you're doing that position for 10 years to, 2 years like myself, is doing those things. I think one thing that really helped me is my business background. I was doing those things, at Echo Global Logistics, and making sure that, I was sending out invoices, making sure the invoices were paid in a timely manner. So I was already doing those things. So it wasn't as big of a, difference as some other assistant coaches do. But, I think that's the biggest thing is, I always say when you're the head coach, you're the CEO of the program. Whether you're, like me, I work with the, our sprints groups, and I'm all over the place, but, from a day-to-day operations, like, I'm seeing the sprinters a lot more than I am the throwers, but I have to make sure that, when you're on the top, you're making those decisions that are going to affect everybody. And you want to make sure that, it's a good program for everybody, from the sprinters to the throwers to the distance runners.
Yeah, that's a great point about the background, because I don't believe that we as head coaches are preparing our assistant coaches to become head coaches in the future very well. We've had them on the show, very good at delegating, like, hey, I'm going to have you do equipment, you're going to do travel, et cetera, et cetera. But most of our assistant coaches are coming into their first head coach just blinds, like, okay, I knew we had a budget, but I didn't know that, it had to be meted out by the different things. And
Exactly.
wait, I got to schedule buses and food. There's so much. I think we could and should be doing a better job at that as head coaches. All right. Well, how did it go there? You're back home. Is this where you meet your wife?
This is where I meet my wife,
Yeah.
So I met my wife, out at an establishment in Chicago. We kind of exchanged numbers. We had a track meet the next day. So,
Of course.
coming back, I just kind of shot her a text, see if she wanted to meet up for a drink. And that's,
you didn't invite her to, the track meet.
No.
Yeah.
So,
good job.
Yeah.
Unless she's a trackie, that's not a great first date.
Spend 16 hours, in a stuffy field house in February. That's not an ideal date for anybody.
Or if they stay with you after that, it's like, well, you must be the right person, because that was pretty grueling.
Absolutely, she's sat through a million track meets at this point. But that was, in 2 weeks, that'll be 13 years ago.
Wow, very cool.
First date. We've been together ever since. So she's gotten to see me through this journey, with everything that we've done. But it was incredible, so being home, meeting the one, and growing that program. Like I said, I walked into a roster of about 4 or 5 athletes. With it, when that summer came through, we were 30 plus. We fielded a fairly competitive cross country team. My grandpa, I love him to death. He passed away, about 10 years ago, but he was always my biggest cheerleader and also my biggest critic. But he would, grandma and grandpa and my mom and my dad, I mean, they, I could probably count on one hand the amount of track meets that they missed. But
Wow.
we're at Loyola for the lakefront, their cross country meets,
Hmm.
and we got our butts kicked, Mike. It was bad, and I could still remember my grandpa coming up to me. This is like meet like three of my head coaching career. He's like, "You guys aren't very good." And we weren't. He was dead on, but we fielded the team for the first time without having to use the basketball team
Right, right,
to
right.
make sure that we're hitting those things. So we were in the right direction.
Yeah, yeah,
But to kind of come full circle with that, we really grew that program where we were 70 plus athletes and really
Wow.
became very, very competitive, in the Chicago Collegiate Athletic Conference with some really, really, really good teams. Olivet, St. Francis, St.
Yeah.
Xavier, were really, really good. Good.
So, how did you do that? And the reason I ask is because I know there are plenty of people listening right now that either are in that situation. I've got this program. It could be high school, could be college,
Yeah.
doesn't matter. I've got 4 or 5 kids, or they don't know it yet, but in a year or two, they're going to take over a program that's 4 or 5 kids, and you grow it to 30 initially, and then 70.
Yeah.
We believe, and I believe, healthy things grow. So when I see
Yeah.
a roster of 5 and it's 30, and it's like bravo. And I've done it once at the junior college. That's not easy because you're trying to sell something that ain't
Yeah.
there. you know,
Exactly.
we're going to have a great team. Coach, you got 5 kids. Our culture is this. What do you mean you got a culture? You got 5 kids. What are you talking? You're envisioning young
Yeah.
people. How did you, can you give us any specifics on how you accomplished that?
Man, if there was a high school track meet in Northwest Indiana or the south suburbs of Illinois, they saw me.
Mm.
And if you didn't return that Facebook message or that text or things like that, I was going to come find you. It was those kids that I really felt that could be game changers for us. I wanted to make sure that in this recruiting game that they felt special. In terms of all of those things. So
How
I
do you
really,
how do you balance out your, I'm gonna say, your ego, because ego's not bad. Bad ego is bad, but your
yeah,
your ego and your competitiveness says, you go look at you guys were NAIA.
yep, we're NAI.
So you
So I'm
go,
still in the NAI
yeah, I was
days.
gonna say you're very, yeah, you're an NAIA kid, exactly. You go look at NAI nationals, or maybe, maybe hopefully a little bit more realistically, you go look at your conference and you say,
Mhm.
okay, it takes X to score in this
Yep,
event. Well, then I need to go recruit those kids. But those kids are not at your school for a reason, meaning they're at other schools for a reason.
absolutely.
How do you balance? I just need warm bodies. I always hate that term. I'm sorry, but I think that conveys what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Versus, I'm going to go get the studs that I need, but
yeah,
I don't really have anything to attract the studs that I need. How do you balance, you know, almost some like long term of like, okay, I need to get this type of athlete
yeah.
first and then work up. And then maybe in 3, 4 years or whatever, I can attract. How do you balance that? Like, I want to go after the studs, but I realize I don't really have anything to offer them.
Yeah, I mean, it's just finding those kids that are going to be the right fit,
Mm,
So, especially at CCSJ, I would find kids like myself, the kids that,
mm,
were passionate about the sport, maybe weren't the fastest, maybe didn't have the greatest grades,
mhm,
but needed that college coach to give them that opportunity like I was given. So like I'm doing today, I share my passion, I share my story. I'm an open book with these student athletes. I think that's what allowed me to get athletes that had never stepped foot on that campus before,
mhm,
because they finally found a coach that was willing to give them that chance, that believed that they could be more. Because we talked about the Johnnies earlier, that wants to be that national champion. Everyone wants to do that.
mhm,
And we've all had those Johnnies that freshman year we don't believe that they could do those things, but
mhm,
then we see that growth in them,
mhm.
that hey, they do become that national champion.
When
Um,
you say, finding the right fit, that's a very common, like, if I were to try to write up the top 10 quips that a coach would say,
yeah,
finding the
that's
right
right
fit
there.
is a
Yep.
top 10. Would you say, though, how many years were you at Calumet?
I was there for 3 years.
Oh, well, good job. First of all, not one and done again there, by the way. I was going to see how long this trend was going to last for you. Um, Over those 3 years, would you say that the kid that was the right fit changed? So the kind of kid you were recruiting year one fit. We're in this stratum of our program. Well, year two, hopefully, if you're doing your job, you're in a little bit different stratum. So now the kid looks different. So when I'm going to find
100%.
the right kid, that looks different than the year before, and then year three, and then progress on. Would you say that?
100%. So where CCSJ is at, it's right in your backyard here in Whiting, the Hammond Whiting area. So early on, we're right across the street from BP oil refinery. So a lot of our kids came from the Hammonds, the Garys, the Maravilles, the Hobarts because of my connections.
Right.
And as we kind of build those things and those student athletes have friends, we were able to really kind of expand our reach to more of more of Northwest Indiana, where a lot of these kids' dads know exactly who we are because they work at the steel mills, they work in BP, so they're around our campus all the time. But when you work at BP oil refinery, like my kids, we have a basketball game tonight, so they're going to come to my office. We're going to watch the basketball game. If you're working, in the oil refinery, I never went and saw my dad at the steel mill. That's just not something that was happening.
Right,
So
right.
those student athletes don't know anything about us.
Yeah.
But moms and dads do. So that allowed us to kind of, really kind of, make that reach to much more than just those high schools that, bordered the city of Hammond and things like that. So it allowed us to really kind of grow those things. And we had a story to tell. Like I said, we took over with 5 athletes, and now, we're top half of the conference, both in cross country and track. That's the progression that this program is on. Is that something that you're interested in?
Right.
It doesn't matter how fancy a campus is or how many fountains that you have on campus. No kid wants to go to a place not to compete at a high level. So I think, really tying into those competitive juices of student athletes allowed me to really kind of get the athletes that would have never thought of CCSJ as well.
So 3 years there, you build up from 5 to 70, and that, I know our competitiveness wants us to be in the top half in the conference, and then the top 3, and top, then win it or push to win it, things like that. But there is something to be said about the competitiveness of having a roster. I mean, there were plenty of people before you that didn't do that job that you were better at than they were in that sense. So there's a little bit of competitiveness of just, again, I hate to use the warm bodies term, but having a roster actually filled out is much better than having 4 or 5 kids.
Exactly.
That you got to go get a basketball player to fill out the 5 for cross country.
Yes.
So 3 years at CCSJ, you do a great job there. Where do we go next, and why?
So, after that, I had the opportunity to take over the Benedictine-University program in Lisle, Illinois. And I just fell in love with that place. I was looking to get into the NCAA. I think with any college coach, I ran in the NAIA, coached in the NAIA, but really saw the NCAA as just, the institutions that are there. It's just absolutely incredible. The different model from NCAA to NAIAs. It's just something that I was really, really interested in. Had a great interview with, the athletic directors there, Mark McCorney, Paul Nelson, and really, they wanted more out of their program. And again, I had some mentors that thought I was crazy, because and if the other people that aren't listening probably don't know that Benedictine and North Central College are literally on the same street. They're a mile and a half apart.
Right.
Where I think that there was this notion that you couldn't compete at a high level when you got Al Carius and Remy down the hill from you.
Sure.
Because it was a reality. Any kid that comes to visit you is going to go, if they're at the 9:00 campus tour at Benedictine, they're going to be at the 12:30 campus tour at North Central. It just makes too much sense. You go to the tour, you eat at Portillo's, and then you go to the North Central. But man, I had an incredible, interview with them, and and made some bold claims that I was going to beat North Central at nationals before I had left. And it just worked out perfectly. I came home to my fiance at the time, and she's like, "How'd it go?" I'm like, "It went really well, but I think I might have promised a little bit too much." But was lucky enough, and a good, I think this is kind of a common theme early on in my career. It was a difficult situation. So I took that position in January. So we were literally like 10 days away from our first, competition on my first day on campus. But it was just an incredible, incredible place.
How did you, let's provide, you're providing a ton of values. Let's keep kind of clicking into this. I don't want to downplay any type of interview at Indiana Tech and Bacone and CCSJ that you had. But this feels like, outside looking in, I want to be careful with my words here. This is a big job, big opportunity compared to those others. First of all, it's a head coaching job. So you take out Indiana Tech and Bacone in that sense. CCSJ had 5 kids. I don't want to speak for them and say they were desperate, and they didn't hire you because they were desperate, but meaning like other people could have come in and did a quarter of what you did and then went from 5 to 10 kids, and they would have been like,
Yeah.
cool, we're happy, we got a roster. Okay. You take over Benedictine, which had its issues, sure, but it was an established program. Has Big Brother, not even down the street, across the street type of thing. I'm curious, how did you prepare for the interview? Whether that was seeking advice from
Yeah.
mentors, whether that was any kind of internet searching, like how did you, like, okay, all right, I'm meeting with ADs on Tuesday.
Yeah.
I want
Yeah.
this job. I've got to convey to them not only that I'm ready, but that I want this job, and that hiring me is going to be the better route than the other 4 or 5 individuals that they may or may not be interviewing. How did you prepare for
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, no, this is a huge opportunity. I was getting married in July, and this would be a salary that I could raise a family on. And that's just something that CCSJ just wasn't.
That seems important.
Yeah, so there was a lot going into it. Like I've mentioned many times before, I am a dork. I research everything, so I I came up with a packet. It was a presentation. This goes back to my business ties. This is why you should hire me, and this is what we're going to do to get to the program where we're back to winning conference championships. Um, and it was cool. We had a
So,
lot.
so, so what's in? I've heard this
Yeah,
before. I never did the. I never. Well, I interviewed and got one head coaching job, but they were in the CCSJ model. They were like, "You got a pulse mic? Cool. We have 3 kids coming back. Job's yours." So a packet would have been wait. They're like, "Yeah, whatever, dude. Just get us from 3 to 20 and then
can you
50,
start
whatever."
Monday?
Yeah, exactly. Because so I hear about this packet a lot.
Yeah,
That other people. This isn't original. Sorry, Kevin. But what's in that packet? What are you trying to show the AD
yeah.
in that packet?
I think what ADs really want. Someone that is going to be, because AD looks at their head coaches as so much more than just X's and O's and wins and losses.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever I was, part of my job, and it still is when we have a big donor come to make them feel like $1 million.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think in that packet's kind of showing my philosophies as a coach, but also, hey, this is also what I bring to this athletic family, to this campus as well.
So
Um,
I think this is important to make sure it's clear. So it's less about, hey, AD, look how great of a sprint coach or
yeah,
whatever. Because let's be real, the AD doesn't
they
know
don't
or
know.
care. I
Yeah,
hate to say it that way. You maybe already have the job, or sorry, have the interview because they think, well, you must be somewhat competent of a coach. Why would I even bring you in? So that's almost like table stakes, to use my old poker career term there. Now you're showing is the idea for that packet to take, you turned in a resume, and
Yeah,
I'm not a big fan of resumes, is to take that and blow it up and say, oh, I've been on this type of committee, Mr. or Mrs. AD, meaning I could maybe help you out here. One of my roles and responsibility was donor outreach.
yeah.
That may be important to you, Mr. or Mrs. AD. Is that what this packet is really about?
Totally, and really kind of going into how I grew the rosters at Indiana Tech, at Bacone,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
CCSGA, and how we're going to grow the roster at Benedictine, and in return, that's going to make us more competitive at the conference and national level.
Got it.
I think that's with any athletic director, if they know that you're going to come in and you're going to be a good steward to the program, great with alumni, being a great role model with the
Hmm.
student athletes, and on top of that, make them competitive like
Hmm.
they've never been competitive before. It's a win-win for everybody involved.
And you talked about, you're a big dork. And I love that, by the way. Remember when we were kids, when someone would call you a dork or a nerd, like that cut you to the bone.
Yeah,
Now, today, I'm like, dude, call me a nerd over track or code. Like, it's a
absolutely. I
compliment now,
wear it
right?
like a badge.
Yeah, 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 exactly. So, would you say, because someone's listening right now going, okay, cool, I'm gonna interview for a head coaching job one day in my life, could be in the next
Yeah,
year or 5 years. So I'm gonna create that packet now. Would you say that packet? Let me ask it a different way. What percentage of that packet is unique to that school? Some things are probably going to care, like if
yeah,
you're interviewing for Benedictine versus Texas A&M versus Indiana Wesleyan, some things are going to be the same. But
yeah,
how much of a percentage is unique because you did your research on that
yeah.
school? How much of it is unique to Benedictine?
A lot of that, because I'm not only using this packet to get a job. This is going to be my playbook the first 3 months that I'm on
Oh,
campus.
yeah.
So I am putting in ideas of, hey, these are the. I look at the roster right now. This is the percentage of kids that are coming from this high school or this junior college and things like that. Here's my idea. These are the first phone calls that I make, so
Mm,
it's very unique to Benedictine at the time.
mhm.
Hey, this is what we're going to do to make sure that hey, this year we're probably going to be fifth place at conference, but these are the athletes that we need to kind of focus on.
I,
I think.
I like that. Sorry to keep interrupting you here,
Oh,
Kevin.
you're good.
You're providing so much value. My mind's just spinning. Like, oh, how do we? I'm always thinking it's kind of the podcast is morphed a little bit. It used to be 100% about uplifting and honoring your journey, and I still hold that as my number one goal here with the podcast. But now, because of the amount of listeners that we have, it's like, oh, how can I leverage this individual's experiences to help
Yeah,
the thousands that are listening, right? So you got my mind just spinning of like, oh man, I've got to help Susie and Tanya, and so
yeah,
I don't think I've ever heard it necessarily described. I like how you said, not only is it the playbook, like I'm trying to show Mr. and Mrs. AD, I'm the right fit for you as the head coach, but you said something I hadn't heard before. This is also my playbook for the first
yeah.
3 months, what 2 semesters, whatever. That sounds interesting to me. Like, talk to me more about that.
Well, in that presentation, I'm promising a lot. This is what we're going to do. So my biggest fear, and I've never had this issue, but 3 years down the road, that it gets thrown back in my face. Hey,
Yeah,
you were gonna,
yeah. Wait a minute. Hey, Kevin, here's
yeah,
your plan.
yeah. Let's
Page
talk
seven
about your
said,
budget, and the 50%, additional, dollars that you're going to raise, and you're going to take the roster from 50 to 75. What the heck, Paterson? So if that's the only thing that you're using that for is to get a job, you're going to put yourself in a difficult position
yeah,
if you don't win conference championships
right.
or have all Americans that are going to show that success. So it's just like being a sales rep. You're going to have those metrics
Mhm.
that you have to keep to either get your ask for that raise, or in worst case scenario, make sure that you're showing that value
Yeah.
that you're creating for that company.
That's what I've
It's
been doing
this
wrong in my 18 years here. I got to start doing that. I got to start doing that. What else did you do to prepare? So I hear this packet, and we could probably do a whole podcast just on packet preparation as far as what you're doing, what you're how you research what to put it, because
Yeah.
again, it's going to be different for Benedictine than it was probably for Central Missouri, et cetera, et cetera. What else did you do to prepare? Did you call anybody? Did you? Well, you didn't have Chat GPT. It's like, did you ask Chat GPT what questions is an AD going to ask their potential head track coach? What else did you do to prepare for this interview?
So I did as much, information as possible. I really digged into, the athletic directors and the, associate athletic directors, their backgrounds to
Mm-hmm.
see if there is any, background in terms of those things. Cause it goes both ways. I want to make sure that,
Right.
on paper, this looks incredible. At this point in my coaching career, I never had a track. I was the track coach, but I
Right.
never had my own track.
Right.
And Benedictine had one. So, it was this big fancy, shiny thing that looked awesome. But I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to make sure that from it was going to be a good social fit. It was going to be a good environment for me to continue to grow.
Hey,
Um,
that's an important part too, Kevin. I talk about this a lot when we hire and interview people here that I'm involved with. When you're interviewing, it's easy to get into the trap of like, oh, I'm gonna show up however they want, whatever their picture of a track coach in this mind is. I'm gonna be that. I'm gonna talk that talk and put who you actually are to the sideline. And it's
yeah,
such a mistake. I beg our candidates when we're here. I'm like, hey, you got to be real, because if this is not the right job for you, we're going to try to be not try. We are going to be as real as possible. I don't want you answering the way you think I want to answer it. Answer it right,
exactly.
because if I don't see that you're a good fit and you realize that you're not a good fit, thank goodness you don't get hired for your own
Yeah,
sake. So you may think, oh, Benedictine is the greatest place in the world. I'm going to answer exactly how they want. And then you get there and you're like, oh my gosh, my AD is terrible. Like, what am I
yeah,
doing here? Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. They didn't tell me that I was going to have, or no, I thought it'd be easier being also the ticket office director. That's not uncommon in small
exactly.
school track and
Yeah,
field here.
yeah,
And in reality, that's 85% of my job. I'm not even you got
yeah,
to make sure
yeah.
that it's okay that you don't get a job because you showed up as your real self and asked questions and got the real answer and decided that was not the right job for me, or that they decided you're not the right, they
Yeah.
using that ticket office thing, and they say, hey, part of the job is ticket office, but don't worry, it's only 30% of the time. Oh, cool. Let me know more about that. And you got to start sussing out, like, is it really 30%? And what is that? How does that affect so does that mean you're going to give me that slack on the track side, meaning if we only get sixth and not second? Well, okay, we understand,
But
candidate.
you
You're
sold
also,
all these tickets.
yeah, you're doing tickets or whatever. Yeah. You gotta realize that.
Yeah.
That's super smart on doing your research on who am I going to be working for and with. I love that.
Exactly, because with any, it goes both sides. You are
Huge,
getting that hiring committee's
huge.
best thing because they're trying to woo you as well.
That's right.
And
Don't
I
forget
think
that. That's exactly right.
exactly, so you have to do that in, that thing. Benedictine was a little bit different. Matt Jones is still the director of admissions over there. He wasn't trying to woo anybody. He was direct to the point. Trying to dig into me like like this is who he is, and I know exactly that.
Did he or anybody in the hiring process committee did they ask you a question that you're like, whoa, did not expect that? Not a bad question, but
Yeah,
like, oh my gosh, I did all this research, did not think they would ask me about X. Anything like that? That kind of like you had to, on the fly answer correctly, but you had
yeah.
to. But it was like I did not expect that.
Yeah, I mean, talking about Matt Jones, like coming from the NAIA to the NCAA, at that point he was the compliance director, and he was like, you're coming from the NAIA, it's the wild, wild west. How can I trust you?
The
And I'm
Wild Wild
like,
West.
well, we, and you're telling me that you can't trust me already? Holy
Mm-hmm,
cow!
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I just met you 5 minutes ago.
mm-hmm,
So that was just his personality. He's gonna throw it out like that,
mm-hmm,
and I think obviously I answered it okay enough
mm-hmm.
to kind of get the position, but that was like the first time in that kind of interviewing process wherever I was. I'm like, I don't, because I'm a dork. I'm doing this research. I have a lot of insight in everywhere I'm going, but it's like, whoa, like, you're telling me that I'm going to cheat right away and
Right,
do
right,
all these things because, I'm only coming from the NAIA,
right.
so I kind of had to push back. I'm like, hey, it's not the wild, wild west. We have rules too there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Rule book is a little smaller though. I know in
It is. It
JUCO,
is.
I'm always like, yeah, there wasn't. I'm not. There was a couple of pages. We didn't really have a book. And then you get to the NCAA. So what were those? Let's talk about your time there at Benedictine.
Yeah.
Very successful. You grew the program. How I say you're an NAIA kid. From athlete to the coaching positions. What no, what did you what differences did you even notice?
Not much, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
It's track to track. I think in track it's so cool is we all compete at the same meets, and a 10.5 in the 100-meter dash is the same in the NAIA as in Division
Right.
One. So
Right.
for our sport, it's not that big of a difference. There were some different things that I had to do for visits and things like that. But again, that's if you can't figure that out, you probably shouldn't be in
Right.
the business either ways.
Mhm.
So we I didn't see much difference, and I really don't. For me as a head coach hiring assistant coaches, it never I never had fear of interviewing people from the junior college level to the NAIA
Mhm.
level, because I think in general track is track.
Mhm. Speaking of that, there's another part of the profession of coaching track and field that we don't. I don't know that I've ever heard anybody say they were trained. How did you now you've got a staff.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that you really had one at CCSJ.
Yeah.
How did you evolve? I hope it's been evolved. Learning how to hire people, what
Yeah.
questions to ask, how to evaluate your staff on a year by year basis. The most common thing I hear is, "Oh, you're the head coach now. Cool. You get to hire a staff. Good luck. Let us know who
Yeah.
you hire. Let us know
Yeah.
who we're supposed to do background checks on." And that's all that it's up to you to, what questions do I ask? What am I looking for? Fit personality wise, the talent wise seems like we can identify that, but all the other things,
Yeah.
in evaluations, how did you figure that out and then evolve with that?
Yeah, yeah, I was definitely thrown in that position. So, they're like, we're going to name you director of cross country and track, and we added this position. Go hire your assistant coach. It's like, oh, I was, for 3 years, I couldn't pay a coach anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I was, if I wanted a pole vaulter, I had to learn how to coach pole vault.
Right.
It's I had the field of dreams mentality. If I wanted to
Mhm.
go get some throwers, I would just buy a couple shot puts. If you build it, they will come. Um, Different things like that. But that position really became, probably my most important hire, probably in my entire career.
Hmm.
We hired Justin Kinzeth, who was a graduate assistant at Cardinal Stritch,
Mhm.
another NAIA school, and me and him um, really blew that program up.
Mhm.
We had very similar philosophies. We were aggressive. He reminded, I was recently married, so I didn't have the full, there was events that I had to attend, where I would have to miss a meet here and there, but
Right.
he was just aggressive in terms of that. Incredible coach, incredible developer of student athletes, and it
Did,
shows.
did
He's
you
he's
know him?
crushing.
Do you know him before you interviewed him?
Yeah, so I knew a little bit about him. So
So,
we were in the same conference with
so,
CCSJ.
so how did you, as a interviewer with the interviewee, how did you suss out that he was going to be the attributes that you
Yeah,
needed? How did you, like, questions or body language? How do you actually, without no, that's why I asked if you knew, like, oh yeah, 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 I watched him for the last 3 years at meets. Doesn't sound like that necessarily. So how do you suss out these other character traits? Because you can,
yeah. So I mean,
just
we just
asking is not that
yeah.
great, right? Hey, are you going to be relentless? Yes, I will. All right, cool. He checks that box. That's ludicrous. So how do you actually suss this out?
Yeah, so he was at Cardinal Stritch when I was at CCSJ. We were in the same conference. He was a graduate assistant, but I think he had gone through 2 or 3 head coaches in like 18 months. It was crazy. So when
Yeah.
they would leave, he would be interim and things like that. But through all that turmoil, they progressed as a program. and having those conversations, seeing how he interacted with his student athletes, and just having, genuine conversations. Like I knew it was going to be, a good opportunity, for us to kind of build that program. I figured, with the resources that we would have at Benedictine compared to the lack of resources that we had at CCSJ and
Right.
Cardinals Rich, that we could do something really, really special.
Yeah. Don't you, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Uh, how much, as you're doing hiring and evaluations, even up till now, how much of like someone who has success at a under resourced program versus the opposite of that plays into like, oh man, if this guy or gal can get it done
Yeah.
at Cardinal Stritch, like you said there, we're 10 times more funded. They should have a field day. They should be more successful. How much does that play into it? Because I remember like, my whole goal was to get to the SEC. So I get to Mississippi State, and, I was at Ball State before that, junior college,
Yeah.
things like that. We got to Mississippi State. It felt like $1 billion budget. Our kids didn't want for shoes. I mean, we went wherever we wanted for meets. And then when I got out of coaching, when I thought I wanted to get back into coaching, I remember one of the first times of like real self-awareness for me, I was like, I can't go back to small school. I got to go back to Power Five. I just can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't do it. And honestly, through the grace of God, nobody wanted me. That it worked out perfectly because now I'm here where I am, and things like that. But I don't know. I think I would have struggled going back to a Ball State after I've been in a Mississippi State.
Yeah.
I would have just mentally, I would have struggled. Like, what do you mean I can't get this? What do you mean I can't get these extra shoot? Like, I need this for the athletes. What do you mean I can't just get in a plane and go see this recruit in California? What do you mean? That's how you want to be successful. This is what I believe. So what I've been
Yeah.
shown you need to be successful. How much does that play into when you're thinking about interviewing or not interviewing someone, kind of a small school under resource versus
Yeah.
resourced kid?
No, it's
Person.
everything, and even today, as I look for coaches and things like that, because yeah, there's going to be those Power Fives, and then there's everybody else, So if you've been at a Power Five where you've had a director of ops your entire coaching career, and they set up all the recruit days, all you do is just email them a name, and hey, Johnny's going to be here on Saturday. Well, that's not how it happens here. You got to do everything, and then you got to hope that admissions isn't busy that day, so they could do the campus tour. So you have 90 minutes where you can get a practice in before the recruit comes back to those things. So it's important in terms of those things that there's that expectations where hey, this is what we have, and for me and Justin, like, we were so excited about the weight room we had and the track we had, and I think the recruits saw that. Where if you take that step back, I'm an Indiana guy myself, so no offense to Ball State, but if you look at Ball State's football stadium on a Saturday and Mississippi State's football stadium on a Saturday,
A little
and you
difference.
have two official visits back-to-back weekends,
Yep.
who are you going to pick?
If that's important to you, you would pick Mississippi State, right?
If that's important to you, but and the same thing going with coaches. You could really pump up, like, hey, Mississippi State football, we're playing Alabama, we're going to put you on the field, and it's going to be awesome. But then you go from Mississippi State to Ball State, where, hey, we're playing Western Michigan, and the stadium's going to be halfway filled.
Yeah.
But how are you going to what your expectations, and how are you selling that to our students?
How do you overcome that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing.
How many years at Benedictine?
I was there for 5 years.
That's what I thought. I thought you were there for a while.
Yeah.
I'm gonna speed up just a little bit, just for the interest of time, because you had a very successful time at Benedictine. That's for sure. I get very I pigeonhole people very much. Like, for me, it was like, that's where I kind of got to know you at, and it was like, oh, Kevin, he's a Benedictine guy. And then I see that Kevin's leaving Benedictine and he's going to another. I mean, you talk about the history of this program. You go to, I almost said Central Missouri State, University of Central Missouri.
Yeah.
I'm old. They used to be CMSU back in the day. Why?
Well, before that, I was at Lenore Rhine for the for 5 years as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
Man.
So
how could I forget? I told you I don't do any research. Maybe I should, because Another wow, you have
Yeah,
a lot of success at Lenore Ryan as well.
yeah,
Holy cow. Yeah, 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 of
yeah,
course.
yeah. So Lenore Ryan was very similar as well. It was kind of you know it was kind of what Benedictine, what I thought it could be. Lenore Ryan was the same way.
Mm.
So I was only the second full time track and field coach in Lenore Ryan history.
Oh wow.
Track had been off and on. We had always had a great football program and other programs as well. Kim Pate, our AD over there, really wanted to kind of take that to the next level. So again, I was kind of able to, be tasked with those things. I was at LR for 5 years. We hadn't had much, success at the national level. Um, I think up a few years ago, we hadn't had a women representative at nationals at LR since like 2012.
Mhm.
And we've had multiple national champions. Obviously, Alexis Brown is incredible. We won the 4x1 last year as well. But I think the women's had 4 straight national championships where that we were top 10 in the country. So that's something that was absolutely incredible. In
So
terms of those things.
so Benedictine was D3, right?
Three.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Lenore Ryan's D2.
Division 2. Yep.
And you started off with a lot of NAIA influence. It's interesting how much, and I asked the question about NAIA to NCAA in general. How about you know the changes you've seen, what you have to do in NAIA to be
Yeah.
successful, Division 3 to be successful, and now Division 2? Is there a lot of change? I mean, we know how much is the
Yeah.
ability of scholarships, because I don't want to say that's the real big change. There's obviously other changes, but that is
Yeah.
a big change. How much does that change how you have to be as a coach?
I mean, it's huge. It opens up those opportunities. When I was at Benedictine, my sales pitch was, to the state champ in Illinois. Hey, I hope you liked it, and you got to pay $20,000 a year. And if you win a national championship with me, you still have to pay $20,000 a year because we're Division 3.
Right.
Um, and it's and it's a challenge, and
Yeah.
obviously that school down the hill, North Central, has done an incredible job with that, and we had a good job. We retained a lot of our top athletes at Benedictine, but being that Division 2, it changes those opportunities. Because sometimes that state champion is I've had a lot of buddies that had a lot of success in Indiana that were state champions and then went to a big time Power 5 program, and they got their books paid for.
Hmm.
Where you're able to really kind of be a little bit more competitive in
Hmm.
terms of the recruitment process, because there is on top of those things. So if it's an athlete that you really really want, we had the opportunity to get full rides
Hmm.
at Lenore Ryan, and that allowed us to get some really really good student athletes.
I always think about scholarshiping. It's kind of the exact same thing I do selling track equipment, just in the reverse. You're trying to get kids at the least possible cost. If
Yeah.
you get a great kid at 50% versus 100, well, that's another 50% you get to go give out another great kid or whatnot. How did you learn that process? Because you hadn't had that process really
Yeah.
before. Somewhat you did, with NEI, but you had some pretty small scholarshiping there. And did your business background at all help in that management of your funds? You have a certain amount
Yeah.
of funds that
Definitely.
you can give out, and you got to do a complete team.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's in the track and field world, how you're winning conference championships and how you're winning national championships is based on a number. And that's something that
Mhm.
I always do, and I update it. I always have that 3-year average of what it takes to win a national championship: top 4, top 10, top
Right.
15, top 25, and that's what we always strive for. So you're using those scholarship dollars, and in like it's kind of the money ball philosophy.
Mhm.
You're trying to.
Yep.
I don't want to say the word buy, because obviously there's so much more to
Sure.
our student
That's a
athletes
great
and
point.
this
Great point.
journey, but
Great
you're
point.
trying to invest to score X amount of points,
Yeah.
at the conference championship, at the national championship, to achieve these things, which in return, is going to make that recruitment process that much easier.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone wants to be on the top 4x1 in the country. No one wants to be on the 93rd best
Right.
4x1 in the country.
Right.
So if you're getting recruited by the number 93 team in the country, you're probably going to want that scholarship to be a little bit higher. But if you have that opportunity to win a national championship at North Central or this school or that, you put a little bit more value in that program and that development and that college experience.
Yeah. Yeah. You made a really good correction there that I need to get better at. The investment into the student athletes, not buying that. You're right. It's too much of my business side. I'm
Yeah.
there 24/7. That's a more appropriate way to say that. And I should follow suit with that. You were, I told you I pigeonhole you, right? So you are Benedictine. Totally forgot about Lenore Ryan, even though I was at Nationals talk. I now remember this conversation we had near the 100 meters during practice,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. It's so dumb. Sorry. You're very successful at Lenore Ryan.
Yeah.
Why go, back to the Midwest, but not
Yeah.
where you're from? You're still a
Yeah.
pretty good little haul there. But on top of that, I think of, Central Missouri with the coaches that they had there with Kip and Kirk, and I think you said Kirk's still there, but
Yep. Kirk Snyder.
Kip is uh, legendary.
Yeah.
Let's just be.
100%.
I can't imagine. Like I have zero jealousy over Bucky taking over for John McDonnell, Dennis when he took over for
Yeah.
Pat, whoever's going to take over for Pat one day, and Mouse, and I just like, dude, why
Yeah.
would you want to put yourself through that? You will never live up to that. Maybe one day when people forget about, 30
Yeah.
years on, they'll forget about Mouse, but for the next 3 to 10 years, they always will remember what Mouse has done, right? Why do you make the decision to leave somewhere you're very successful at,
Yeah.
go to another, again, Central Missouri,
Incredible.
you got some history there, bro. I mean, that's an amazing program. And you got to take over for this
Yeah.
legend
Kirk's
that
a legend.
you can't fill his shoes. You got to wear different shoes. Why? It just seems like I don't know. Are you just like you just like pain and suffering? I don't know. Like you just like to be make things hard for you. I don't know. Why do this?
Central Missouri is a school that I always kept my eye on. I think as much success as we had at Lenore Ryan, we weren't fully funded. It would have been a difficult. It would have had to be perfect for us to win a national championship at Lenore Ryan. As much as we are in this sport to be incredible role models and uplift our student athletes. If we win a national championship, that's the cherry on top.
No judgment, absolutely.
And I am a competitive person. I want to make sure that we're doing everything the right way, but I want to win a national championship.
Mm-hmm.
So Kip is a legend, 100%. But he has given me, and everybody here at Central Missouri, a roadmap of what it takes to win a national championship. Right. We have 54 individual or relay national champions in Division II. It's absolutely incredible. I could see where some people might be hesitant to, step into this position because of, Kip retiring. For me, that just made me more excited. I've my entire career as a coach, I've been hired to resurrect programs or take them to the next level.
Yeah.
The bones are here.
Yeah, it's a difference here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's different here. We have those traditions. I walk into my office every single day and I see just a ton of NCAA trophies, and it gets me hungry. And you're right. I'm not going to replace Kip. He's a legend. He's an Olympian. And we've had a long discussion how I was a very average student athlete.
Me and you were limpians. We limped through
yes,
these things.
Yes. For me, I've been very, very intentional talking to alumni, talking to students, talking to the students that we have and any alumni that will listen to me. I've always asked the question, give me 3 things that have to stay the same here at Central Missouri, and give me 3 things that you think that we need to change to make this program even better. So we're really, really intentional to make sure that, those traditions, and obviously we have Kirk here who's a legend himself.
Absolutely.
Who's done an incredible job with our distance program. So if I always ever have a question and things like that, he's always available through
Mhm.
those things. But I think we're still the same program that won the back-to-back national indoor and outdoor championships in 2015. I
Yeah.
think that we still have those opportunities, and I'm excited about the future.
How do you have your own culture and style, and sometimes culture is a little overused.
Yeah.
There's still like there's basics in all in most of our programs. There's basics of culture, meaning, hey, we're going to go to class and we're going to do good in grades. Hey, we're going to compete at a high level. We're going to come to practice. We're going to uplift each other, things like that. But there are nuances, like, hey, I expect this out of our kids, and
Yeah.
hey, we're going to be more distance focused. I don't know, not necessarily, but we're going to be more focused necessarily on this event group over here. But you also have a very successful program,
Mhm.
again, a legend in Kip. You have a part of that puzzle that's what to me culture is. It's a puzzle with a bunch of whole different pieces in there. One of those pieces, Kirk, is still there.
Yeah.
How do you sometimes? So when you went to CCSJ, if you were to think of it like as a boat, you had to like 180 that boat. And luckily it was a small boat, so you could do it quickly. I feel like, you correct me where I'm wrong, that a program like UCM, it's a bigger boat because it has a lot more tradition history. And you know what? I'm not looking to do 180. I'm looking to move 1 degree or 2 degree. How do you do that, knowing that you could, I'll say, blow it up and do everything
Yeah.
differently, your own ways or other ways that you've done it? How do you manage that? That's really the question. How do you manage subtle moves that are still forward,
Yeah.
that don't, knowing that you could make a yank on that steering wheel and kilter this thing pretty bad. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it's for me, it's been pretty simple. Kip was a developer like I was, so our philosophies and the type of kids that we have on our roster right now are the type of athletes that I would have recruited at Lenore Ryan or Benedictine or CCSJ. So that's been super, super easy.
Right.
I make sure that I'm very intentional of explaining why we do things the way that we're doing them now, because that philosophy has changed significantly in terms of, just in terms of volume and intensity of our training program. But I make sure that every single, because we brought in about 6 athletes here in January that I'm really, really excited about. But, of a roster of 120, 114 of those athletes I never recruited.
Hmm.
So they came here for a number of reasons, but I'm sure one of those reasons is because, having Kip as their head coach.
Right.
So meeting with everybody, explaining like, hey, this is what we're trying to accomplish, and I think this is where we'll find success at. But also understand that, hey, Kip was this legendary coach that some of the athletes that we have. Um, that won national championships had no business winning national
Hmm.
championships. And I think if you look at my national champions, I think it's very, very similar. These are
Hmm.
kids that just weren't getting recruited out of high school.
Right.
Someone gave them a chance. They believed that they could be national champs, and the hard work followed that. And on that special day, we were able to achieve that ultimate goal.
Hmm.
I think that's so similar here at Central Missouri. So I think our alumni more than anything are they love the sport, and they've done their research on me.
Hmm.
Where I think that they see that, hey, that I've been able to take these programs to the next level. Everyone that I've had the chance to meet, I've told them about my family and my philosophies and things like that. Um, and I've also told them it's going to be important that we are proud of our history. We have some things in the works to honor Kip and Kirk and their careers, and just the incredible amount of student athletes that they've touched the past 36, 37 years here in Warrensburg.
Hmm.
Um, And I'm 40, so I don't know if I have 36 years of coaching left in me. But I want to make sure that the legacies that they left that are celebrated, and I'm a big legacy guy myself. I want to make sure that I'm creating the right legacy of where we're continuing to be the mules and jennies that we were the past 40 years, and making sure that we keep that ship moving forward and do those things, and we coach different events. So me and Kip coach different events. So there's going to be some pivots to those things, but I'm going to show our alumni and everybody here in Warrensburg and in the Kansas City area that's everything that we do and the type of student athletes that we bring in, we're going to do at a very high level.
It's striking to me throughout your career, kind of the leveling up, if you will. One of the first levels up were you graduating high school and going to college,
Yeah.
your own level up of your family, competing in college, getting a college degree, and then throughout your coaching, a volunteer stint in AI, and then a paid NAI, and then going D3 and D2, going to Benedictine, and you first time I've had a track, and now you're Central Missouri, and you've got an indoor facility and an
Yeah.
outdoor facility. You just keep leveling up there, my friend, and I believe that that's the type of person that is going to level up where they are now. And so what's cool to see is you're not starting at ground zero, you're starting at on maybe the third floor to level up to floor 4 and 5 and 6.
Yeah.
It's pretty exciting to be able to be on the sidelines and watch that move along.
Yeah, it's been great. I wouldn't be here without the support of so many people. This doesn't happen, what we do. Without that supportive, spouse, Kara has been incredible. Sometimes it's a hard sell. We just got back from Orlando for a week. Trying to tell your spouse that, yeah, I'm going to this great place. It's going to be 75 degrees. They got this lazy river, but I'm going there to be, to do business. Sometimes that's hard sell. But I think with anybody, in this profession, your success is tied to your wife, or your spouse or your significant other so much, because without the sacrifices that they make, it's impossible to have that thing. So it's important for her, go walking through all of this. She gave me this awesome Christmas present. It says home is where coaching takes us.
Oh.
And it's so true in this profession. But I've just been so lucky with the people around me. I try my best to make this about the athletes, and it's never about me. And I think that's where the success comes from.
Well, you're obviously doing a great job in the many, many roles that you have, husband, son, father. I just, when we're recording this, I just retweeted a tweet with, and all I put was 3 broken hearts, because I think it was a football coach. I think it might've been a baseball coach, but I think it was a football coach. And they were saying that, in the coaching profession, it is impossible to be a good father and husband. And that breaks my heart to hear any coach say that. And I think having examples like you is important for young people who maybe are, they're in the profession at 24, 25 years old going, probably won't ever be married or won't ever, be a parent. And it's like, no, bro, you can. And not only can you can do it at a high level. Again, there's no bigger fan of track coaches than myself. And I still would say your role as a track coach is maybe number 4 or number 5 on the priority list.
100%.
Again, son and husband and father and, where your faith sits and things like that are all more important than coaching. And I think coaching is extremely important. So, but we have to have examples like that you can be you can have your priorities in the right order, and I'm really proud of you for that.
We appreciate
It
that,
makes
Mike.
it makes a huge impact, and makes their job easier to support you as well. By the way, when you have that reciprocity, that's like, oh, I don't mind letting him go to Orlando for a week because he's going to come back and be really intentional, as a mate and as a father. So. Proud of
Absolutely.
you, man. Kevin, man, the most important and most valuable thing that you can give me is time. You're busy. I can't imagine what it takes in the first year of a program. You're being constantly tugged on. Hey, we need you over here. We need you to do this. You've got a million ideas of your own of I want to get this done and do this and meet with these people. So for you to take some time here at the beginning of indoor season, for crying out loud, to sit down with us and share your journey, man, it means the absolute world to me and all of us here at Gill. I'm just really, really grateful, and just love you, man. Just blessings this year. I can't wait to see you. I'll see you in Indy, and I'll see you in
Yeah.
Pueblo, and I'll remember that you're at Central Missouri and no longer at Benedictine. So hopefully it'll stick up here. But Kevin, for real, man, just very grateful for you, and thank you so much for being with us today.
No, this is an honor, Mike. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for being here. Season 6. I'm not sure we've had a string to start off a season of coaches like we've had so far. And I think it's a testament to, a little bit of what the podcast is as far as, I don't want to say importance, but, what it means now in the track and field, specifically coaching world. But I am grateful for all the men and women that join us here. I hope you have received value. That is, it's still number 2. It's still number 1 to uplift and honor these guys and gals, but quickly on its heels is to add as much value to the profession for those who choose to be track coaches, no matter what level out there. And so I hope, I know this did. If you listen to it, I know this added value. Join us next week and we'll do it all over again. Thanks, guys.